Dearly beloved, we are here today to mark the passing of my ability to get invested in main characters ever again, because frankly, I am devastated. Yes, welcome to our review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Episode 9, All Those Who Wander, which was... We've been chatting about this a little bit before. This is mixed reviews all around. Hype for various reasons, not so hype for others. We'll come. I think we're gonna have to just start with it. Why did they kill Hemmer? Why? Oh, by the way, preface should say spoilers before all this. I might put a preface before the episode saying big spoilers, but you come into a review.
Well, you shouldn't be watching a probably inevitably hour-long review if you haven't seen the episode.
Absolutely not. That's on you. But yes, why do it? He was like, I was literally saying after the Ren Fair episode last week that, oh my gosh, he's now my favourite character. I can't wait for all these amazing moments we're going to have this interaction with the crew with his hard-ass yet comical aspect.
Fell into their trap.
Fucking did,
That's how they
I?
get you. That is how they get you.
So let's start with the biggest crime. The biggest crime being the pre-roll footage, the last time on. Pretty much heavily telegraphed it by saying, my purpose in life is to fix what is broken. All episode, I'm like, don't you fucking dare touch him. Don't you even try it. Leave my boy alone. And they put out the two sort of red shirts, as it were, the ensign and the lieutenant, to die first. I thought, oh, they're good. They've killed their token amount of Starfleet officers this episode. Whew, my boy's safe, but oh no!
Yeah.
Guys.
Well, I have a lot of problems with this episode, and we'll get to them as we go along. Hemmer dying, the way that it was done, the way his death scene plays out is really well done. Maybe the best death of a Star Trek character since, like Spock in Wrath of Khan, maybe. I mean, just in the amount of, pageantry, for lack of a better word, just that they really give him his moment, and it plays out beautifully.
Yeah,
why
I think it's done? It's not how they kill him, it's when and why. Because if in terms of purely in universe, the way it is written, it is a very good death. It does. It's not like, I don't know how you could watch this and not feel emotionally affected. Not emotionally compromised. Like Brody, my boyfriend, he cried at this.
I'm still not okay. I am.
Yeah,
I ache inside. Look, I've been through the stages of grief, and now I'm doing it again, and I think I'm revolving back into anger.
When you hear it's like just like on Andoria, and not feel anything in that moment, then you probably just failed the Turing test.
Yeah. So I think in terms of crafting a narrative, it's not the narrative that is the problem. It's the implications and and what's going on outside. It's not just we're going to miss this character that we barely knew, and we did barely know him. He was only really in 4 or 5 episodes this season, and every time he was on screen, he was pretty much the best character. Not to draw anything away from every other character. We've said on multiple occasions, we love pretty much everyone here.
Yeah.
But this is a bit of a hard pill to swallow, because it's just so little screen time.
If they'd have done this the end of season 3 or something, I would have been more acceptant of it. But to give us all this potential and suddenly to go, no Hemmer for you.
Just and the uniqueness of the character itself.
Yes.
It's the first Andorian crew member of substance of any stripe, really. A crew with very visible disability that is operating as a worthwhile member of the crew, and just is funny, is really, really competent and intelligent. Just all of these things, and you toss it away. So yes.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things.
Sorry, hang on.
No, you're right.
You're good.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where the character as written is extremely well done. There is, it's and I think I was looking up, what are the, in terms of representation for a disabled character, he is not shown to be incompetent or unable because of his disability. He is incredibly competent, like you say. In some ways, he's better because he's learned through what he's his impairment, as he told Uhura he hates it being called. In terms of like representation, he was great.
Yeah,
but it's also a case of you have a cast of 9 main characters. 7 of them pretty much you can't kill because they have preordained fates, and you're leaning into that in the meta narrative of the show because they keep on bringing up Pike's knowledge of his death. Well, death, as it were. And so every time the inevitable question comes up of who are the main characters that can die, well, it's Ortegas, it's Hema, and to a degree probably Una because we don't know what goes on with her,
and Lon,
and
another.
Lon as well. And so it's not a great look when the first one you choose to kill and or remove from the show is your only disabled actor. Now, that is prefaced with the fact that they did tell Bruce Horak when he came on, this is only... They told him from go, this is not a character that's going to last past season 1. So at least it's not a Denise Crosby or a Terry Fowler situation.
No,
that's something
it was
at
all
least.
agreed.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is Bruce Horak did go into an interview lately and says, I'm not finished in Trek. We're going to get more Bruce Horak in some form, which that's fine. That eases it a little bit because I think he's absolutely superb. I think he's a fantastic actor. But it's still hard because he's not going to be Hema. Maybe he'll be Hemant the second time.
Yes, it's Bemmer.
I happen to believe it's not butter. We laugh because we're in pain.
Okay.
But yeah, it really does suck, especially because we have our most visible alien crew member dying to prop up the story of a TOS character. And while I love Uhura and how she's been written and her journey, and it's well done, again, it's not the execution of the idea; it's it's where it's coming from. It's the execution of
Bemmer, damn it!
Because it's like it is an emotionally well done story, but it's just a case of from the outside in, it's not a great look. It's just a case of this is a character we wanted to see more of. This is a character that we don't have a lot of in Trek. We don't have a lot of prominent Andorians that have tons of screen time. Like Shran was meant to be in season 5 Enterprise, but that got cut short. Yeah. This is our first main disabled actor playing our first main disabled character. This is a lot of firsts. This is a lot of really cool things in one character, and that's the one you choose to kill.
There was a lot of promise that could have been realized from that character that was thrown away for, I would say, fairly questionable plot reasons.
Yeah, because it's like you set up Uhura's end of the sort of this arc for her. You do establish that the Gorn are not to be fucked with. That is the thing. If they are setting up the Gorn to be the greater scope villain of Strange New Worlds, then congratulations, you killed the main character. That's more than most of the main baddies managed to do. More than any of the Borg ever managed to do, really.
I think we'll talk more about the Gorn and the characterization thereof as we get into it, because I got problems with that too.
Yeah,
I mean, we can't even compile a top 10 best Hema moments because we haven't had enough time to I mean, just in every appearance he is in, that's it.
Yeah. Every time he's on screen, a moment, and then there you go. It's a high run.
Can we get to 10 from there? I don't know if we can.
No, I don't think we can. Such a shame.
In terms of distinct moments,
yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah,
so what even happened in this episode?
Well, okay, so Big. Okay, on to you, Big. This was your assignment. You kind of set yourself. How many different films that have you noticed that this blatantly just ripped off? How many different?
Okay, so it's very clear as you get into the episode that this was their horror. This was their horror episode.
Yeah,
they wanted to lean into kind of the creature monster horror hunter sci-fi thing. So the direct homages that I could get were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different franchises. So the very obvious ones. Yeah. Well, okay. two of them are from the same franchise, so I guess you could kind of link that together. But the very, 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 very obvious ones were Alien and Predator, because the Gorn are very much a chest bursty alien kind of thing. And when you go to their POV, it's very much a Predator style.
Listen, if anyone watching this didn't go, oh, this is Alien or Aliens, immediately watching it, stop watching his review and go watch both those films, because you need an education.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and then the Hammer Death moment is very much an Alien 3 sacrificing yourself so you don't make more of the baddies kind of thing. There is... you could say that it's a more generic thing, but to me, starting off on the ice world, the isolated ice planet reads very much like a Thing kind of thing. Plus, there's a fair amount of body horror that kind of goes into this whole thing, which is very much the Thing kind of thing. I have Terminator 2. I have Jurassic Park. I have Jaws. There's a pretty obvious musical quote of the Jaws theme of a sort in there. I even have that the design of the adolescent Gorn reminds me very much of Reptile from the first Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, wow, that's a pull. Jesus.
Yeah. So it just...
It was a bit Sub-Zero.
Yeah, it's true. Now playing Zero. No, so it's just, there is a lot to be said, and it's very much in the fabric of Star Trek to hew very close to inspirational sources for their material, to the point that being rip-offs. But this is just, I mean, it is very obvious. Very plain, like this is what they wanted to do, and it is all over the screen from basically the moment they land on the planet.
So what you're saying is they ripped off all the good horror movies?
Well, that's the thing, though. If you're going to quote them quite that obviously, you run the risk of reminding people that those films exist and that they did it probably better most of the time.
Most of the time. I think we can talk about the diminishing returns of the Alien franchise since 1990, like ad nauseum. I think this 50-minute episode was a better Alien movie than we've had in probably 30 years. So your mileage may vary on that. I don't know. I think with this, Star Trek has such a history of doing this, and such a history of drawing on that sci-fi well, that the quotations were very obvious. But as fans of those movies, I don't know, maybe this is a difference in perspective, but I was like, okay, that's a fun nod. And also, there is also a degree of, to me, because this is a streaming service show, you can get away with some really intense stuff that you would not be able to show on TNG or Voyager. Like, those would usually go for horror of the existential or the,
I don't know,
the
Genesis
unspoken.
was pretty freaky.
Freaky, but there's no, there's someone who's got like some slashes on the chest, but that's about it.
What about the woman that got transported half into the deck in that one episode? That was
but that's the thing. That's an implication of horror there. It's not someone's like chest being ripped apart by angry little gauntlets, you know?
True.
And I think we do have to say, like, in terms of executing the ripoff, like, they did a really good job of blending CGI and animatronic, which I think is always the best way to go about executing a monster like this.
Sure. As much practical as you can accomplish is going to make for a better product in the end.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned like Reptile for as an inspiration on the gauntlets, because I actually looked at especially the semi-mature one that was chasing Lan, and I looked at that and I was like, that's actually a pretty decent evolution of the design we see for the Gorn in Enterprise. Obviously with significantly much more advanced CGI, but I looked at that and I was like, yes, this is very obviously quoting, the Velociraptors from Jurassic Park. This is quoting the Xenomorph. But
I'm surprised they didn't enter it
still very
at one
much
point and just hide under the covers, use the reflection of the Gorn to trick it.
The Oriana holding her breath. But I felt like the design was still recognizably a Star Trek Gorn Enterprise design. So that's this series in general has been doing a good job of paying homage to Enterprise and making me think was Enterprise good? And then I look back and I'm still not watching season 1 and 2. But if we're going to talk about aliens rips, I think we have to talk about the most obvious ones, which is Sam Kirk is Hudson and Oriana is Newt.
Yeah.
And they are direct analogues for each other.
Even Lan has her "get your hands off her, you bitch" moment when she stares at him and just goes, "Come and fight me."
No,
coming at me.
That was just playing into the whole thing, because as soon as she said "come on," it's like, "Kill me! I'm here! Come on, do it!" Yeah.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. I think Pike said that.
Yeah,
didn't he?
well, yeah, because Pike had that. It's like, you saw me hurt it.
Yeah.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Did anyone do the Predator handshake? Did we see that anywhere?
No.
Damn it.
Although it's like every time we went to the Gorn POV, I was just like, okay, well, when are they going to blow Carl Weathers' arm off? I'm just waiting for that.
He's in the other franchise now. He's in The Mandalorian. He can't touch Carl Weathers.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like
Trek, would that happen? How can we get Arnold Schwarzenegger in Trek? Like,
make him the president of an alternate universe Earth.
There we go. Perfect.
So yeah, I think your mileage on this is going to vary on just how much you find the spins that they do on all of these quotations from other franchises fresh for Trek, or if you find them stale because they are so ingrained in pop culture.
I liked how they approached it. I was on edge throughout the episode, even though, like you say, we knew a lot of the cast were going to be absolutely fine. Even like dealing with like Spock's little jump scare and things like that, it still made me kind of go, ooh, like that. I was invested enough in the way it was produced and then the way they laid out the script that it was solid, like a solid episode homage to every horror film as it was. But like you say, your issues are that they maybe lent into that a little far, that makes making the Gorn chest bursters and giving them predator vision, and it was a bit on the nose, as it were. I mean, it was done really well, and I think if this had been the follow-up to The Cage back in 1968 67 and they'd released this episode before Aliens and Predators came out, it would have been revolutionary. But I just got to chuck a kitten off my desk.
I can only imagine how people would have reacted to this in 1965.
It's like half of the people watching this rewatch are just going to be watching your cats in the background, and
they are. Yeah, sorry for the noise. You can hear them scrabbling around. They're both going nuts trying to kill each other at the moment, but they're having fun at least.
They're flying for alpha dominance.
They are actually, yes, they're very appropriate.
Yeah. So that is something that I think is a decent spin on the xenomorph thing, because in every depiction, the xenomorphs don't usually kill each other, and they do at least continue the plot threads from Memento Mori, where the Gorn will ruthlessly murder each other if they detect even a hint of weakness.
That is it's the only element that actually had a little bit of something fresh that they added. Because I have to say, I didn't know when we were going to get into this entirely, but it's like, now that we see pretty much in full, what the writers have intended for the Gorn, I kind of have to just wonder at this point why they went to all the trouble. Because now it's, they have made this race seem like some kind of absolutely unstoppable, unbeatable killing machine that we know Jim Kirk is going to kill with a bamboo cannon in 5 years' time with
He's from the north.
Not minimal effort, but it's not like he is an American gladiator or something. He's not the. Don't
tell Shabba that. He probably thinks he is.
Yeah, probably thinks he is now. So yeah, it makes Arena that much more of a joke, and it's like, that there can't be a really meaningful resolution to this Gorn storyline as far as like some kind of confrontation or something like that, or Arena doesn't work at all. As much as
we're
it already
well past
kind
Arena
of
not working
work.
at all. We're at that stage now. Like that, this broke the camel's back on that one.
So why are we doing all of this? Why was this set up this way?
I mean,
I do feel like at this point they could have very easily gone with this being a very similar but different species, and then the people who were buried right canon. And to be fair, it is now at this point, I wasn't too fussed about it with Memento Mori because they made sure that no one actually saw one of them. But now, they've broken the camel's back, and now it's a case of, now canon is You know, Pike can't go through his accident, but we can show the Gorn all we want.
I think they had to do something with the Gorn. If they're going to introduce it and remake it, they had to do something to get away from the kind of the big, plastic spacesuit alien going "Rawr," and getting like double axe handled by Kirk with it kind of, just bouncing off the rubber, but apparently breaking a few ribs. I think they had it had to be reinvented. Like this is something
you can step away from it, but that still exists. You can't just exit out.
I think just
because it's inconvenient.
I think we have to sort of agree that whilst storyline canon can stick, I think visual canon always has to change or has to be upgraded.
Like, visual canon I couldn't care less about. And again,
I've said this story before, but I've always approached like.
Can I introduce you to the Klingons?
Well, yeah, that's a different. That's
all
a different
17
story.
versions of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this theory, I've stated this theory before, well, not theory, or what the word, my opinion on the original series, that I always treat it as like a stage play. It's stage play that's being shown in a Galaxy class starship somewhere that's acted by probably the cheapest troupe they could find on Ferenginar, but it is an interpretation of the events that happened in those times as maybe overtold in some ways rather than maybe actual depictions, because they are very different from every other Star Trek series, which are, as much as a science fiction show can be, grounded in a bit more reality as in terms of sort of human lives and culture and things like that. So I always approach the things like, especially the arena, it's a gladiator fight between the Gorn and Captain Kirk, so they dramatise it that way, where maybe if it was in reality in the original series, it may have been a bit hairier, a bit more a bit more serious, but it's told as reenacted. That's just me. That's just how I sort of view it, and how I'm happy with them reinterpreting things, because the story was told differently through different ways.
Yeah.
I do feel like there is room for this to go some places, because we've seen the Gorn in ship combat, we've seen them at birth, but there is still room for one final third form of the Gorn, their actual final form.
They have to be space,
because we have not seen an adult one.
Yeah, we
need to see. Yeah.
They've achieved bloody hell kittens. They've achieved warp speed. They've got ships out there. They can hunt. They can act as a civilization. Like at some point they grow out of their. That's why they have hunting grounds. They have hunting grounds to bring their young into maturity, and then maybe at a certain point they kind of go, right, here's your pen. Here's what an A is. A for apple. B for B. And go, oh right. I killed
Here's
my
how we
brother
teach
for
you
this.
your Morse code clicker.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's scope for that. There's so much.
Yes. Yeah, I think you could do a lot more to reconcile the two versions of the Gorn if in Season 2 we see a Gorn that can speak, that can, not just kill anything on sight. Yeah, it can dance, it can sing.
I love you, Dr. Zayas.
I need a second opinion.
Planet the Gorn.
Yeah, if we can see a Gorn that is not just sapient, but sentient and intelligent and capable of operating a starship, then I feel like there is way more room to bridge the gap between Arena and this in terms of like depiction, if not in terms of canon. I feel like, and that's what we're leading up to. Like they are evidently setting up the Gorn to be. This is episode 3 of the Gorn arc in Strange New Worlds. We've seen more of them than we have any other enemy. So. We have to assume that, yes, they are going full pelt on this. It's not just a one-off. Yeah. So, with that assumption, I'm going to go with we haven't seen everything from the Gorn. This was, a group of 4 gauntlets that were on an isolated planet with no adult to look after them, no one to socialize them. Maybe they hadn't learned how to do anything above a certain, like thinking level. So, I'm happy to put my foot down on the brake on that and wait to see what they do in Season 2 in terms of going, well, this version of the Gorn makes no sense with the other version of the Gorn. That still has time to go. But the canon, no one's ever seen a Gorn. Well, is that true? Really? we saw him pretty well.
Yeah, Spock himself has seen one and shot at one, so that already breaks a few things with Arena. So,
yeah.
Let's talk about the alien we saw, the actual sort of coherent alien, whose name I've forgotten, begins with a B. What was it? Buckley. Yeah. Can I say the animatronics on him was amazing? Like, I have never been so anxious watching an animatronic thing breathe deeply and heavily and sweating. Like, it made me uncomfortable to watch, but that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. In terms of like, we've been talking about how well the little gauntlets were materialized. Like he, if anything, was even more impressive. And for a character that's only in the episode for 5 minutes and has no English speaking lines, like we don't know what he was saying.
He reminded me of the rhino species of Doctor Who, if you've ever seen that. No,
Oh, the Jadoon, yeah.
The Jadoon, that's right. No,
Yeah.
no.
No, I just thought he was speaking Huttese the whole time.
Yeah.
As far as I was-
Wasama Pinky. Yeah, there was something a little bit Star Wars about him, not just like the design, but also just because it was an animatronic that made me think more of Star Wars, whereas Star Trek has always hewed more to the rubber forehead model of thing. But guess what? If you can do it on this budget and make it look this good, I would like to see that race come back again. If we can, if this is a seeding for, hey, let's go and meet that race and talk about them, and like maybe we team up against the Gorn, or we just have like a diplomatic relationship with them. That would be cool.
I mean, if you want to talk about, like we've talked about before, how well they've used the budget that they have. Well, and this is another prime example of it, because they did the Yamato thing where they just put the sister ship and just reused all the sets again.
Not a Constitution
but now it's
class.
all new.
No.
Yeah,
Using
just put a bunch of
parts.
shit on the floor and shoot it all at Dutch angles, and it's brand new again.
I mean, that's classic.
So-
That's classic Trek, really. I've got no complaints with that.
But no, and I don't either. But I'm saying it's like, if you're going to devote that much budget and that much design time and work into a creature that fully realized and never go back to it again, that seems like a waste to me. I mean,
Well, we may never see the Shepherds again, and they were an equal level of effort. So it's very interesting to think about if we see these things come back in season 2, in which case that's even more impressive. But if they don't, then that's why, wow, you spent your money and I guess you got it to throw around.
Well, you made a distinct impression. You made like a moment. You made a moment, and that's all I think any piece of entertainment wants, is they want to create moments that you remember, and that's absolutely going to be a character and a moment that you remember. So if that's all we see, then that's
yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like that was an element of the episode that was, we're talking about how it's been derivative of other horror franchises. The moment where Uhura, is like, I can't do anything with linguistics here. I'm just a person on a broken starship, but I can at least try and indicate non-violent intent. That's a way more Star Trek style thing, like that interaction and the fact that their first instinct is to try and help. And the way that they approach it is also, it's very alien, but it is also very, very Starfleet, just like thinking collaboratively and imaginatively using their environment. But that is at least a distinctly Star Trek element that we get in this episode.
yes.
Can we talk about Sam Kirk channeling his inner Chris Pine for a moment, just to sort of bring us that,
He's inner Bill Paxton too. Don't don't sell it short.
just really bring it full circle, Less Guy Fleegman and more Bill Paxton, but definitely got sort of essences of Kirk's freak out at Spock. Jim Kirk's freak out at Spock in the 09 films with him, but I think that's like we spoke to you about the stars. I think that's a deliberate move, to bring the sort of audience a little bit of familiarity and go, oh, hang on, there's a bit of that Kirk personality in there, and again, it always brings us
that
around
call to emotion.
Yeah, it brings us around to the Paul Wesley kind of questions. Like, okay, this is going to be an interesting dynamic. I think we're going to get a lot of the Kirk brothers. I was trying to say Pike and Kirk, but it's like, who's the captain? What year is it?
Kirk watch.
2267. What?
So I feel like it is really interesting that they decided to take who has essentially been a joke character. Like episode 1, episode 2, every time he's turned up, he's basically been, I'm going to turn up, have a few lines, and then get like some kind of punchline. And they decided to take him in a more serious route. And I'm really interested by something that actually Pike said, which is that Sam is tougher than he looks. And I forget the canon on this, but what was it, Tarsus 4, the colony that Jim was raised on with the starvation?
Yes.
I'm wondering if that was a reference to that. I don't know if that's an element of backstory that the brothers share, but I'm wondering if that is an element of it.
I wonder if we're going to get a flashback to Tarsus 4 with... Oh, that's interesting. Because
that's a way to differentiate these characters from, because we never really saw. We never really saw. Kirk kind of dealt with it, but in terms of because Shatner is many things, but vulnerable is not something he often is, and definitely not in that episode. If we see him and Sam like dealing with something like that, Like maybe like the Enterprise has to, or the Farragut, if that's the ship he's assigned to, has to deal with like a starvation issue, and then it brings back all these memories. Maybe that's an interesting way of differentiating these characters and going into a part of their backstory we haven't seen explored before.
I mean, I don't know about the timing, but what if the Enterprise under April was evacuated that colony, or was that something to do with Tarsus 4? I think it might predate it a bit.
Funnily enough, there was actually a book that they released when Discovery was coming out that established that Lorca and Georgiou were the ones who were first responders on that crisis.
Oh, interesting.
Which is interesting.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So
yes,
if we could get Georgiou back for that, that'd be interesting.
You said the magic words, Prime Lorca, and I'm like, yes, I'm in.
That would be also really interesting.
But they could also just toss that aside as
needed. Yeah, they also did a book where Burnham and Spock met before season 1 of Discovery, so that was thrown out very quickly.
Yeah.
But I like that they gave Sam Kirk some spine. He has some flaws. And while he comes across as like, the Hudson character as being a bit of a dick, a bit of a easily like frazzled under pressure, this was a really stressful situation. And he does at least have a few moments of bolstering Uhura and trying to reassure her. So I appreciate that. I'm interested to see where they go with him. A lot of people have said that he's really unlikable, and it's like, no, he's just a doofus who's in over his head. He's a scientist. He's wearing blue.
I like him. I think he's alright.
He's just a doofus. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, and it's also that thing of, you're being so unreasonable. It's like, this was a really stressful situation. There are people in puddles of blood everywhere. Like, this isn't a Sunday stroll.
I think he falls in comparison to the hyper competence of the rest of the crew around him. Like he's reacting like the way a more reasonable, fallible person would react in some of these situations, whereas the rest of the crew can, get beyond that and, just do what needs to be done in the situation. I think the better question is, how much of what Sam Kirk did leads to the decision that Spock makes about himself, and how much of it came from some other sources, from whatever Chapel was saying and whatever the previously on told us was the direct predecessor of it. So
the whole Spock thing is interesting. It seems to have sort of come out of almost nowhere a little bit, his anger issues, because obviously I've been going through his thing with T'Pring, that kind of being the main focus point, and the whole sort of, his humanity versus Vulcanhood seems to be the main point, but him suddenly coming up and going, I'm loose with my anger and I could just bring it out with a simple mantra, was a bit sudden for me. Because for all intents and purposes, anytime Spock's done that previously, it's either been under some sort of manipulation or ponfar or something like that. For him to suddenly kind of go, fuck Colin up, fuck logic, I'm just going to get really angry and stab this Gorn.
Well, yes. I think they do at least... No, there you go.
Well, I was wondering if that is some sort of established piece of lore about Vulcans that I didn't know about, because
not that we've seen.
It seemed rehearsed and codified enough. Like there were words. It's like it was almost like a mentat thing. It's like, it's by my mind alone I said that. But it also is convenient to have a in case of emergency, break glass case of emotion. Emergency if you just really need it as a last resort. But yeah, it's I don't know. It doesn't feel like, well, it can either go one of two ways. One, it's an established thing. It's something that Vulcans know about. And if that is the case, they should also know how to turn it back off and be able to work yourself back through it. Or it's something that's unique to Spock and is some kind of ongoing problem that is somehow resolved before TOS starts or something.
So I think that there's a confluence of issues going on here, where it's a case of Spock is a Vulcan-human hybrid, and I believe canon has either said he's one of the first or the first that actually successfully grew into an adult. So in which case the emotional balance has always been a bit of an odd one. In terms of the mantra, I feel like it was almost a case of, Vulcans are historically a primal, deeply emotional, deeply violent species that have only learned to control it through rigorous logic. And I almost wonder if that mantra he said is a reversal of something he was taught when he was younger to control his emotions, and that's why it was so effective. I do also think we have seen Spock get angry before in this season during Spock Amok. Because it was played a bit more for comedy when he was confronting Barjan as T'Pring, but those were very much his emotions. He was very much furious, and if you think of Spock in TOS, he would never rise to the bait and strike someone unless he was emotionally manipulated, like in This Side of Paradise when with Kirk and the spores and stuff like that.
And I think that's also another direct call out to 2009 Star Trek because when Quinto loses it, Quinto Spock, it looks almost exactly the same. It's almost the same pitch of yell. It's like, so that feels like another tie-in. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I think I have no problem with this Spock showing more emotional range. Well, not even emotional range, but just a greater emotional, a lack of control is more appropriate, because he doesn't have that control. He's been shown to laugh and to smile and to all of these things in Discovery Season 2 as well, because he is not the Spock we know just yet. He has not got that control. And I'm wondering if that's what we're going to be working towards, is he is starting to see that while embracing his humanity and his emotions can be a source of great strength, it also has a significant drawback, and maybe that's something that'll be developed with Chapel, Cybok, Angel, maybe all three. Yeah. This is all very much building up to an emotional undercurrent that's going to come to a head, and then I think at some point Spock is going to very coldly cut himself off, and we're going to see like almost an emotional death in some ways. Not an emotional death, but of this version of Spock. And we're going to see a clean transition into Nimoy, is what we're going to see.
The death is actually going to be the Spock-Chapel relationship. That's just because we know that's going to kill. That's going to get killed. It's going to be nipped in the bud, which makes it hurt every time. But two things that hurt this episode: Hemmer and the Chapel-Spock romance. But because we just know. Oh, bloody kittens!
Oh God, they want to play the guitar. It's fine.
They do. That's just.
Hope it was in like Open G or something.
No, it's one of my knackered guitars. It's fine. Anyway, sorry, go on.
But no, it is a case of, he is absolutely drawing on that well. And I also found it really significant that when he is drawing on something to make him angry and open the floodgates, as it were, he does not think of Sam Kirk saying that, which is something that he might be angry about. He thinks of Duke and of him being killed, which means that he was angry about that. And that is something that comes naturally from within himself. And the fact that Spock and Spock was primarily a comedic episode, but looking back on that moment of anger striking Barjan, like, it was played for laughs, but looking back, it's like there is a well of anger there to draw upon.
Yep.
Speaking of...
Now you talk.
Yes. Speaking of angry people struck out for vengeance, La'an was an absolute boss this episode. Like, she was... if I want someone to run security or an away mission or command or something, I pick her. Like, if you put me the lists, you even put Worf up there or Tuvok, I would put La'an above both of them because she was just in control. She had a spare gun for friends. Like, Jen Chapel sort of gave her a gun. She was like, no, it's fine. I have a spare. It's fine. She was prepared. She was equipped. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was in control. She may have missed a couple of shots at the Gorn, but... flawless performance all round. Like, she was the most competent person there.
But now you can't assign her to lead these things because she buggers off at the end of the episode.
Yeah, but that's fine. She does that after it's been resolved. That's fine.
So I feel like we do have to...
Mission done. Off I go. Therapy performed.
I have to speak up for my boy Worf, and I have to say that maybe if Picard had given La'an the same, if Picard had given Worf the same leeway that Pike gives La'an, maybe a lot more problems in TNG would have been avoided. But that being said, La'an leaves at the end of this episode, and we are left wondering exactly how long that is going to last for. Like, just like with Nan in Discovery Season 3, like, it's left open for her to come back. We know she comes back because we have footage from... with Paul Wesley's Kirk, so just a case of how long, really.
She's very much a fan favorite character. A lot of people like La'an. Like, they can't not bring her back in season 2. Like, it's got to be done.
Absolutely, and they haven't tapped on the Chekhov's gun that is her last name beyond a few.
Do you know what? I've actually completely forgotten about that for about half this season. Like, that was the whole thing at the start. I was like, what are they going to reveal? And when she just went, oh yeah, he's my ancestor, I went, okay, cool. And then that was
I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point that obviously was done to do something to Una's story when that is due to resolve. Because, I mean, they've touched on it a little bit, but they're saving it for that moment. I have to think.
I
Otherwise,
would think so.
Why give her that name?
Yeah, or it's just an elaborate deception, and they wanted you to come in with a certain image of her that they'll then deconstruct and give you this version of Lan who we like, so that you go through the entire thing going, wow, that was a real cool character turnaround, and they've done a lot of work just by giving her a certain name with loaded connotations.
I like they did that, but actually fleshed out a character. Like, they didn't just let the Khan thing be the sort of preface for an entire plot. Like, she had history with the Gorn. She had a whole sort of thing with Starfleet coming into it, and then she's now had all, she had these trepidations serving under Pike, and has now kind of overcome on them, and it's just a badass now. And like, I don't care about the Khan stuff anymore. I just want more Lan. Don't you kill her off as well, Star Trek. I'm watching you.
Man. It's like that. There's the number of characters with no plot armor is very short at this point. So, if they go to that well again.
Saying that, they have been very good at keeping the episode stressful, or like, I think back to the first fight with the Gorn on the starship, the sort of the submarine episode, where that was, we knew the Enterprise not going to get blown up. We know everyone's going to survive at the end of the day, but it was still a tense episode. So I like that it doesn't really matter if we know they're going to survive or not. We can still get tense episodes. We can still get entertainment from that.
Yeah. Well, we also have to talk about the fact that we technically lost two members of the crew. I mean, we lost Lana, we lost Emma here, and so at the start of the season we had 9 principal cast members, which I think is up there with DS9 in terms of like cast width, and having now shed 2 of them, potentially 3 if Uhura leaves. We don't know if she's going to have to.
I think that she's going to stay. I think
whether or not she's allowed to stay, because she's on cadet rotation. Is she allowed to just stay?
She was given that.
There's always going to be a place on the Enterprise for Yoda. That was said at the very end of the episode.
She was given that communications desk some real eyes. She really was. She was looking at it like that. She wanted to do things with it. Like there was just it was weird.
It makes me wonder if it's going to be a Lan style. I'll come back later, maybe as an ensign. I'm wondering if are we shedding a few characters because we realise we have too many and we can't develop everyone equally.
No. I mean, look, Anson Mount took all of the cast, which included Celia Gooding and Christina Chong, out for axe throwing. Like, they're in the main cast. They're not going anywhere.
No, but I think I'm not saying going anywhere in terms of like they're going to leave the show, as in they're going to go away for a little bit so we miss them, and then they can reintroduce them later on in season 2 so that we have more time to develop Una and Ortegas, who have been very much given the short shrift this season. We've gotten a lot of good moments with them, but in terms of focus, like, Ortegas has had more screen time, but in terms of character details, we know less about her than we do about Hema, actually.
Yeah, it's true.
I think we have to see what next episode is. Like, we have to see. Again, I'm not watching any of the previews. I'm sort of keeping. Actually, I think it was Trekcore on Twitter advised: don't watch the previews. Don't look at production photos. Save yourself a surprise, or save yourself some something, because this might be worth that episode doing that for.
Well, in terms of spoilers, I have seen that promo. I'm not going to say anything specific because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do you dirty. Okay. I will say that the promo they show you it hits hard, and it makes me very curious what that episode is going to be about, because it's heavy, but it looks like it's going to be really character heavy.
Okay.
And it's also a flip on something we have seen previously in the show that I thought, okay, we've seen this from pretty much every angle. How many more ways can you attack this? And then they say something, and I'm like, oh, that adds a wrinkle. And I'm interested to see what episode 10 is going to be like. Because it might be a Pike Una, it might be something else. It's an unknown quality at this point.
The one thing
makes me wonder, is that why they jettisoned these characters?
One thing I will give for some of the previews I have seen, but like some of the they don't telegraph a lot of the episode in it. They give you the hint, but don't give you the conclusion. And I just have to remind you guys that Hema died in this episode, and I'm still not over it. Just have to bring that back round, because we've been talking about a lot of other things, but I think the Hema death it's there. It's right in me, and it hurts more. And I've never been like, for a character I've only seen in about 3 episodes, I'm more pissed off for the death of the things he could have been. Sorry.
Yeah, than what we actually got to see. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's almost like a Sito Jaxa death, but he was in the main credits, really, in
yeah,
terms of how much it
kind
hits you.
of, yeah, Sito
Yeah.
was tough.
Yeah.
In terms of a loss of potential, that's what this
Yeah.
feels like.
Definitely.
It's one of those things where, like, yeah, again, well executed, but I'm gonna miss him on the show a lot, and I don't know. I feel like that might well be the first dropped ball by this show, really, in terms of me thinking about it overall. I've had little niggles and problems, like episode 6 I didn't really like all that much, even though I thought it was fine. But I feel like Kemmer's death and the hit to disabled representation, the loss of a character we had a lot more to learn about, the loss of our most obviously alien crew member, I feel like all of those combined mean I think this is a dropped ball. And I feel like this is still a really strong season, but I have to hold that against it.
Well, I mean, this feels, and we haven't gotten to ratings yet, but that's why I didn't like this episode as it's my least favorite of the season, to be perfectly frank. It's because so many of the threads that have come through this season came together in this episode. It's like the thread. I mean, this closes the loop on Hemmer because that's all we're going to get of him. It brings Lon in and, kind of closes that loop. I mean, although it's going to carry on to something else. It kind of closes all of the Gorn stuff, all of these choices, and it makes it feel like they brought all of that together just to make a rehashed 80s sci-fi horror ripoff. So it's like it feels like kind of a disappointment, a betrayal of sorts. It's like,
do you think it's like a well executed, creatively bankrupt, misfire, as it were?
You invested all that capital just to cash it in here with this.
I would
it's the first time that I felt. Yeah. Okay.
Not to put anything against your feelings. You have. We all have opinions here, and I think this is probably one we probably disagree on. I thought it was better than the sum of its parts. I think we had a lot of moments we're forgetting about here, like the individual character moments that we have, like ignoring all the alien stuff aside and how much of kind of, yes, it was a rip-off. It was a well-shot rip-off, like we've said before. It was executed absolutely fantastically with like maybe one or two nods too far in there. But there were moments like, at the start of the episode where we get Pike and Lan eating Pike's like quiche and asking for more cheese, and you go, I'm going to get you some more bacon, was just such a pure moment. Just like Lan just like going, looking and wondering, God, I've just had a stressful time with the councillor, and Pike's like, have some quiche? No, I don't want. What the fuck? This is amazing. It's like the chef.
You're forgetting Apron Spock.
Yes,
You're forgetting Apron Spock. It's just like.
I'm pretty sure that was an improvised moment. Ethan Peck was just like, okay.
Well, and Mbenga had some of the best one-liners of the series so far.
And Ortega's having the
and Benga's
speech.
line about is there such a thing as a scheduled emergency landing?
Yeah. And of course, it's like that. It's dead, Chris. That's
Yes,
that's great.
The production values were outstanding. I liked the I've forgotten his name already. The B guy, the alien.
Buckley.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember that. I think for all the tropes were done wrong, I think there were a lot of individual moments. The Hema Uhura moment where they're talking as well. That's a good. I liked. Although I hate his death, I like what it sets up for Uhura.
You know what? As someone who, as a group that have all enjoyed Star Wars to some degree, how did we not see that the mentor character was going to die?
Well, yes.
Really, that writing was on the wall from moment one.
Yeah. Let's go to ratings. What are we rating this out of? Star Wars?
Well, I want to talk two more things. Big, you had an issue with the Mbenga daughter line.
Oh yeah, how about that?
Yeah, well, just because it felt like it came out of nowhere. It felt, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was a natural line because he hadn't really shown any actions that made it feel like he was getting too invested in the girl.
Yeah, there could have been a degree of like physicality where like he's gripping her a little bit more, like he was like gripping Rukia at the end of last episode or something like that. There would have been a more obvious through line. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it wasn't paying off something that you were aware of as a viewer. It was just something that was thrown to you.
It was very jarring, and I think that the conversation he has with Long after it is a good one, where he's talking about like the reflections and stuff like that, and you know, he's very quick to clarify, no, this is a me problem. I feel like that's a very emotionally intelligent moment, but the way they introduced it was just jarring, and I agree with you on that. The other thing I want to bring up is I really enjoyed Chapel in this episode. She was very competent. Jess Bush can do terror really well.
Oh, she looked freaked out when she was on that biomed, just ever so slightly edging into the room. She was still an idiot because she was calling out her dead friend's thing and actually lowered the force field at all. Like, that was a stupid move.
Wow.
That's a typical horror trope kind of thing. But yeah, she sold it.
Well, you can't just stay like scared in the safe place forever. Otherwise, that's how they find a way in. But I also appreciate that it added an obvious flaw to her. You know, like she is in date. It can lock up. She can have that moment of, oh god, my life is in actual danger here. And it makes it way more credible at the end of the episode that Spock would feel the need to comfort her because we have seen her exhibit pure terror. So I feel like that was a well done moment for her, and I feel like that means that whatever that ends up going into, I feel like that through line is being executed relatively naturally. Like whether or not you approve of that, through line for Spock's character, I feel like it's been at least executed well and acted well.
Yeah, there's been a lot of subtlety and a lot of care put into establishing the reasons why an attraction would be there. So I mean, I don't think you can really fault that. It's just the question of what that's going to mean for those characters going forward before it all completely falls under a wet blanket before TOS starts.
It's going to be tragic. Like the fact that we've already had that emotional gut punch in Spock and the Serene Squall. Like I can only imagine what's going to happen when we have the moment it all falls apart and we're going to be like, oh, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, man. So,
what's our rating?
Gentlemen, how many goofy Hemmer memorial pictures out of 10 would you give this episode?
Dang, why do you have to pick that specifically? Because that was great.
Oh, it's so good. That big smile, the different haircut is so good.
So I knock this around a lot because I have to give like a certain floor of admiration and recognition just for how well they executed their plan. I just don't really like most of the plan.
Yeah.
Because it's like I don't like how closely they followed all of the source material for these things to where you can see it and call it out point by point. It's like this is that, this is that, this is that. And I don't like obviously getting rid of Hemmer at this point, and we've said multiple times just how I think that is an absolute miss. And I'm not sure. It's like the resolution of Lon's arc at the end of this episode. I don't really know. You don't know where that's going, but it feels, I don't know. It feels like a wrong turn at this point, with the proviso that it could all make total sense once you see where they're going with it. But it's pretty. I mean, as much as horror is pretty, it's like it's done well. I just don't like it, and I don't like the way it was done. And so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
Was that 4?
4.
4. Wow, I think that's our lowest rating yet for this season.
That is, yeah,
which is impressive. But
Idle. How many goofy memorial Hammer pictures?
I keep bouncing around. I'm more generous than Big. I'm bouncing somewhere between 6 and 7. Probably more 6. I enjoyed a lot of the moments between the characters. I enjoyed the suspense. For much as you say what they executed was a trope, I enjoyed the trope. I enjoyed the Gorn had to be something, and them having a hatching ground makes them very terrifying. They may have lent too much into the aliens for me to rate it any higher. I think what brings it down for me from being better was pretty much what Big said, especially with Hemmer. Like, it hurts. Like, it really hurts. Like, I've never felt this sad over a character dying in so long, like we said, because of the potential of what there could be. The Lan stuff, I'm happy that I don't think it's completely resolved. I think she's working to resolve it still with helping the child and investigating things. I think we're going to see more Lan Gorn stuff going forward. So I think that there's more to come on that side of things. But probably a 6. It was, well, what did I rate the First Servant one? I think I gave that a 6, so I'd probably give this
I think that was a 6 also.
Yeah, I think I'd probably give this a 7. I enjoyed this more than that, just because I was watching it all the way through, and I wasn't, at no point was I ever not entertained, and I'm happy with that. I think the flaws that bring it up to 8, 9, or 10 are just like the niggles that we've said about mainly Hemmer for me. It's all that. I can't get over that. I never will.
Yeah, I do have to wonder, like, if Hemmer hadn't died in this episode, what would you guys give this episode?
Probably an 8. If they'd have saved Hemmer, I'd have given it maybe I might still give it a 7. I don't know. We can't postulate on things that have never happened. We're not in that reality now. I can't bear to think of it, because then I'm now thinking, oh, all these episodes that Hemmer's now alive and could be awesome in.
I would probably have given it a couple of points in my eyes. Yeah.
Go on, Stars.
For me, the genre of cribbing, I'm perfectly fine with. Like, I'm the kind of guy who plays horror games, and whenever they rip off Alien or Terminator, I'm like, yeah, that's the right scene to rip off. So that doesn't bother me. For me, it is primarily the meta implications of you killing off Hemmer for the lack of character opportunities he's going to get, the killing of the disabled character, which is really sucky because he's so cool. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 goofy Hemmer memorial pictures.
Okay. Well, and one untouched on thing that I've read is, like, if the other reason to kill off Hemmer is to go ahead and start bringing Scotty into the story, I'm really gonna be upset.
Okay, I've got an idea for you.
Not that I don't love Scotty, but just...
It's too soon.
What if Bruce Horak is coming back in season 2 as a Tellarite chief engineer?
Okay, I'm on board. I'm there. Absolutely. Yes.
Suddenly, this rating shoots up from like a 4 and a 6 and a 7 up to a 9. It's like, guess what? I love Hemmer, but now I love this Tellarite.
And you know what? They can even get away with it because they can give him the hollow eyes, can't they?
A Tellarite and a Bolian walk into a bar. It's like...
Turn Bruce Horak into the Jeffrey Combs of this era of Star Trek. Yes. I'm down for it.
Oh my!
You did it for Ken Mitchell, and Ken Mitchell was great every single time.
If they bring him back as the next chief engineer, I'm down. Absolutely.
I would think that would be hilarious. I'd be like, okay, that was awful and heart wrenching, but all of the meta implications of oh no, we lost Hemmer suddenly become hilarious again. If we can just get Bruce Horak back, if he just rejoins the cast again. It means you have to redo the intro.
Wait, we can find out.
So then he's just going to be the Kenny of Strange New Worlds now, right?
Yeah, and then suddenly that's hilarious. Like
oh my god, they killed Hemmer.
I think that would be amazing, but I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see. Because they have said that Bruce Horak is not done with Star Trek. I'm wondering if that's like that opens up a few opportunities. Either he's going to be in Discovery or Picard or Lower Decks or Prodigy as another character, or he's coming back in Strange New Worlds. And if we bring him right back to Strange New Worlds,
it's going to be Bruce Horak and Noah AK as just like these like different characters killed off in various iterations. Like, why they got?
Because they know you love them. They know that Andorians are always the fan favorite.
God damn it! It's because we don't see enough of them. Okay. What was the other thing I was going to say? No, completely. My brain has completely gone. Nope. That's it.
No, you're all good.
Okay, no, that's what I was going to talk about.
R.I.P.
Scotty, yeah, R.I.P. No, it was going to be the whole Scotty thing. Like,
oh yeah,
the temptation is for them to start wrapping things around into TOS. I have trust in them to cast someone good for it, because we were all very sort of like on tenterhooks about Spock, about Chapel, about Uhura, and just thinking like, oh god, I hope they're doing the right, and they have. And like, I trust this casting, the person who does the casting, don't know who that is, to bring in the right person to be Scotty, and I trust kind of the writing team to do it right for Strange New Worlds.
So, yeah, it is the thing of like, yes, if they bring in Scotty, I am sure he will be well written. Yeah. I am sure he will be an interesting character. I'm sure we'll get to see all kind of facets we didn't see in TOS. But
it's too soon.
It will still be the sacrifice of a character I didn't know, wanted to know more about, for a TOS character that I like but could have left on the sidelines. And that is, if that is the trade-off we end up doing, then that sucks, actually.
Yeah.
Don't bring me all the TOS crew in too soon. Like, just give me time with them. Maybe the last season of Strange New Worlds, bring them in. And if they say, right, season 6, season 7 is going to be the last season, I'm being optimistic here. It's my hopeful thing. Like, season
we're
7,
already a winner if that's the case.
Absolutely. 7, and they're saying, right, we're going to now start wrapping this round with TOS, and we're going to bring in all these actors that are going to be McCoy, Scotty, etc., and then I'm absolutely fine with that for season 2, a bit too soon, especially when we're many years before
that was
the pilot episode.
The main reservation that we have when we Kirk being in season 2. It's like, not yet. Don't do this yet.
No, you know what? Guess what? Your new main cast member for season 2 is Gary Mitchell.
Hey, actually, no, yeah, give me some more Mitchell. Give me young. Well, we've potentially got his sister in the show with the operations officer.
Could do.
Maybe, because she is also a Mitchell. So, I mean, okay, Mitchell's quite a common surname. You know, it could just be
only one Mitchell limit. Yeah.
No, we already have one.
You can't possibly have two posters of the same. That's not
seriously. If they do some sort of spoof and give her the silver eyes, I'd be so happy. Anyway, we're diverging. It's time to wrap this up. Check out next week. Next week is season finale, and I am literally 1 week away from me decrying this is the best season of Star Trek ever. So we will see.
How bad would it have to be for it not to be?
It would have to be Code of Honor level bad for it to, and even then it still wouldn't be the worst first season.
Weekend at Bernie's, but with Hemmer's corpse would be how bad it would have to be.
That would be hilarious. What are you talking about? Bruce Horak would play that really well.
But on that note,
he'd bring a kick out of it.
On that note, we will see you next time. Ta-ra.